Hello, my name is Jimmy and I'm going to review and I'm going to talk about my analysis that I did for the translation I chose. Basically, there are many problems that I faced during this process. About my analysis, I'm just going to talk about the techniques I used. The first, um, the first one that I used is basically borrowing. This is one of the techniques which I commonly use during this process of translating. The first one, um, the first example that I can talk about is about a route token. A route token is the name of the platform, is the name of this system, ecosystem, and so I didn't translate the name. I just took the name, I borrowed the name, and I use it because it's the name of this platform. It wouldn't make sense to translate token. Token has a meaning in Spanish, but as it's its name, I didn't do it. On the other hand, another example was similar to the first one. There was a card which is the Route Touch and Pay card, which is the name of this card. It's commonly used, it's commonly known as Route Touch and Pay. So I used translated, when I did the translation, I used translated La Tarjeta Route Touch and Pay because it's just the name, it's the name of this card. And I just borrowed the name and I didn't do the translation. I borrowed the name. Another technique, the second technique I use is equivalence. Equivalence was during all this process because there was many English words that or that has many English words that have the equivalence in Spanish. For example, I started with this paper. This paper is literally means papel in Spanish. But I had to think about what was this document about. So once I recognized that it was about an article, I translate paper as article. So I use the equivalence is kind of an established equivalent depending of the kind of the type of document. So in order to translate paper, this paper describes, I use the artículo describe. Also, another example was e-commerce. E-commerce is commonly known for Latin American people and also in Spain, that is comercio electrónico. Is as well it is established equivalence because it's how has to be translated. E-commerce, comercio electrónico. And there were so many other words that I will talk about, but these are two good examples about equivalence. On the other hand, literal translation, it was during all the process because translating literally didn't affect the product or the final product of this translation. So in this part, in the source translation, I found that this part can be completely translated as literal. For example, this you can see that our solution is completely transparent and strips to make, and I use translated literal because it doesn't affect the meaning. So it conveys the same meaning as in the original. Nuestra solución es completamente transparente y se esfuerza por hacer. This is literal. I use the same words. I didn't change anything. Also, one of the most common techniques was modulation. Modulation, I use modulation in this part to to have to have a better meaning for this translation. Any company to further incentive. So I use cualquier empresa pueda incentivar aún más. You can see this is I modulate the way that further was in the translation. On the other hand, one of the problems I faced was this part because I didn't know how to do it. Loyalty reward consumers. It was a problem that I faced. So I did a lot of research. I read many articles about the topic, about the main topic, in order to understand was this about about the meaning of these three words: loyalty, reward, consumers. So I found out that it refers to the system of rewards that these kind of platforms has to their consumers, to their loyal consumers. So I modulate this, how this can be. And I translated as consumidores recompensados por su lealtad. And this was a good translation for me. On the other hand, in this part, I modulate how it was conveyed and how the verbs were used. For example, is expected to move. I use a reflexive se in Spanish, which is common in Spanish, and I put it in the beginning of the sentence. Se espera que la mayor parte de la industria financiera y bancaria pase a blockchain, which blockchain is also another borrowing because blockchain is a system, but that's another topic. So also another finally the final technique I used was transposition. I also use transposition in many parts of this process. Here you can see that aiming, the one I marked, aiming, we are aiming to increase. Aiming functions as a verb, as an ing verb. So when I decided to translate this, I prefer to use objetivo, which this is a noun, it's not a verb. Also, nuestro came from we are, but in this part we can see that I changed a verb for a noun, and it was really good to translate in this way because in many companies when they are talking about their objective, their mission, their vision, they use nuestro objetivo in order to be more to convey what they want. So objective was aiming was translated as objective. Also, now I'm going to talk about some of the strategies I use. I use commonly two. The first one was translation by omission. In this part, I saw that service providing refers to the servicios, so I didn't translate providing. In this way, in this part, you can see that su infraestructura única ofrecen a las empresas de comercio electrónico, which is e-commerce, and service providing companies y de servicios. In providing, I omit providing because it wasn't unnecessary and it didn't change the meaning of this whole sentence. So that's why I decided to use it, because in Spanish we can say y de servicios, and you understand that that enterprise offers service providing. Okay. Also, and finally, I use the technique translation by paraphrase using unrelated word. in this part was a really one of the problems I faced when I was translating. Online is commonly translated as en línea, but offline is not a common word in Spanish. Como it can be translated as fuera de línea, it's not natural. So I use a related word in this case that refers to be connected, related to this topic, to be on internet, and offline or in this case online can be conexión. So I decided to use conexión as a related word to this topic. So sin conexión refers to offline. You can see online and offline, en línea y sin conexión.